Right here. Hello, everyone. Good evening or good day if you're from the US. How are you, Anthony?
Doing wonderful. How are you today?
Good, good. Great. Lovely. Okay, today we have a nice lesson. It's called The Light That Reforms. That's the lesson, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. The Light That Reforms. So I've got a question for you. You guys always ask them questions, so I've got a question for you. Do you believe we can change our own nature? Right, that's my question. Why don't you guys just drop something in, whatever you think, and in the meantime, you know what, I'll figure out what we're going to read. Today's lesson is very special because we often worry about how to change, how to make changes. We often see things in us that we want to change, we strive to change, or sometimes we just want to change the whole world and everybody else in it except ourselves. So what do you guys think? Can we change ourselves? Can we change our own nature?
Oh, that seems kind of scary.
Yeah. Actually, it is a bit scary because we endeavor to do that sometimes and mostly we fail. However, in the wisdom of Kabbalah, we have a little trick up our sleeve. And that's called the light that reforms. Now, sometimes when we talk about the light that reforms, it might sound kind of airy-fairy, the light. It's like a little mystical. However, it's not really mystical at all. And let me know if anybody drops an answer in. Okay. Because in life, as well as we grow up in this world, what do we get? We get help when we're born, right? We have parents, and our parents, our brothers and sisters, as we grow up, they help us out. So as we grow up, we try to adapt to this world, and we try to learn the ways of our existence here and how to get by, how to manage. We get all kinds of help from the environment, from the surroundings that we're born in: family, friends, school, siblings, grandparents, even the babysitter. So as we grow up, we get a lot of help. So in spirituality, obviously, we need something that needs to correspond to that kind of help that we get in this world. And that's what really the light is. It's a way for the Creator to help us out. Now, in this life, it's a bit easier because we have mum and dad, and they kind of help us grow up. So we can see them, we can feel them, we can communicate with them, we can have a chat with them. If we do something naughty, they'll give us a spanking, or they'll give us a no, and they'll educate us in such a way that we'll begin to discern what's dangerous and what's okay to do, what's not okay to do. And that help is necessary in our corporeal lives. So in spirituality, we need something that's along those lines. And that's what's called the light. Can we feel the light? Well, we certainly can. And we'll get to feel it as well. It's not as airy-fairy or mystical as it might sound, but the light, as we progress in spirituality, is a way of grasping what we learn intellectually and translating that into sensations, inner sensations, and then bringing that inner sensation to reconciliation with understanding the truth rather than intellectually. I don't know if that made sense. Did that make sense?
Made sense.
All right. Let's hope so. But if it doesn't, you can always ask questions. So let's read a little bit, and then we'll move forward. Did anyone write anything?
Oh, wow. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 4 answers right now.
Okay, so you give me some answers before I carry on. Let's make this an interactive lesson today.
So the first answer that we got in was from Johan. And Johan's from Finland. Johan writes in, "Our nature, no, but how to realize it and truly attain and becoming it." Mike from South Africa wrote in, "I think it's very hard to change our nature for most. Impossible." Dora from the USA wrote, once we learn about our nature, we can control the undesired ones only by recognizing them and making a conscious choice to change. And Stephen, not sure where from, but Stephen wrote, no, we are in the hands of the Creator, I would say.
Right here. Okay, so we have a few answers there.
And one more that just came in. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name. It looks like a Kiwet. It says, I cannot change my essence. I cannot change my DNA. I can change my insights and my attitude.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Let's read. Let's read and let's see what the Kabbalists are saying, and then we'll go through everything and we'll learn together. I'm going to read from Kabbalah for the Student, this big, fat, juicy green book that we have, and it's on page 373, and the item is item number 155. Now, the article is called Introduction to the Study of the 10 Sephirot, and item 155 is highlighted there, starting from the middle of the book. So, Introduction to the Study of the 10 Sephirot from Kabbalah for the Student, page 373, item 155. Therefore, we must ask, why then did the Kabbalists obligate each person to study the wisdom of Kabbalah? Indeed, there's a great thing in it, worthy of being publicized. There's a wonderful, invaluable remedy to those who engage in the wisdom of Kabbalah. Although they do not understand what they're learning, through the yearning and the great desire to understand what they're learning, they awaken upon themselves the lights that surround their soul. This means that every person from Israel is guaranteed to finally attain all the wonderful attainments that the Creator had contemplated in the thought of creation to delight every creature. And one who has not been awarded in this life will be granted in the next life, etc., until one is awarded, completing his thought which he had planned for him. And while one has not attained perfection, the lights that are destined to reach him are considered surrounding lights. That means that they stand ready for him, but are waiting for him to purify his vessels of reception, at which time these lights will clothe the able vessels. Hence, when he does not have the vessels, when he engages in this wisdom, mentioning the names of the lights and vessels related to his soul, they immediately shine upon him to a certain extent. However, they shine for him without clothing the interior of the soul, for lack of able vessels to receive them. Yet, the illumination one receives time after time during the engagement draws upon him grace and grace from above, imparting him with abundance of sanctity and purity, which bring him much closer to achieving perfection. Right, any questions here, let me know. Obviously, when we're talking about this, means that every person from Israel is guaranteed to finally attain all the wonderful attainments that the Creator had contemplated in the thought of creation to delight every creature. Obviously, Israel, we're not talking about a person according to his identity card or his passport, right? Did I explain this word before? Israel? Let's make it clear now that we've touched on it. In Kabbalistic sources, Kabbalists are never talking about things that are related to this world, because there's nothing to talk about in this world. So when he's talking about any person from Israel, Israel comes from the words Yashar El. Yashar means straight or towards. El means the Creator. So any person, okay, who directs himself towards the Creator is called Israel. It's actually the name of Jacob when he was able to bestow to the Creator in order to, when he came to the degree of receiving in order to bestow to the Creator. So it's actually the name given to a person who directs himself to the Creator. So anyone who has a dot in the heart and comes to study Kabbalah and directs himself straight to the Creator is called Israel. So it's the name of a person who is in this state. So we're not talking about the land or the country of Israel, or we're not talking about an Israeli citizen roaming there on the street, because he's no different than anyone else roaming the street in Timbuktu to, I don't know, Peking. The only difference between a person in this world is whether he has a dot in the heart and he directs himself towards the Creator, which is the attribute of love and bestowal, or he's just a regular Joe living in his desire to receive for himself. And that's it. There are no other types of people on the planet. Whether you're Chinese or, I don't know, African, European, American, Aborigine, doesn't matter. Kabbalists only talk about one kind of person in the books. One who's directing himself towards the Creator. And directing myself towards the Creator means towards those attributes that the Creator has, which is the attribute of love, and the action of love is bestowal. That's it. So wherever you read Israel in the holy books, you need to understand we're talking about a desire towards the Creator, and that's it. Okay? Okay. All right, so that needs to be clear. So what is he saying here? Baal HaSulam writes to us very easily. And before we move forward, let's talk about what we asked a minute ago. Now, we're all, as you know, we're a desire to receive pleasure, right? The Creator created us as a desire to receive pleasure. This will never change. We will always be a desire to receive pleasure. Just like Baal HaSulam writes here. What does he say? He says, every person will attain the wonderful attainments that the Creator had contemplated in the thought of creation to delight every creature. So every creature is going to come to that delight, and the only way to come to that delight is to receive it. So this nature of ours, the will to receive, this is our nature. This will not change. What will change is our intention on how we use our nature. So let's draw that in black. Let's do here our intention. Now currently, in corporeality, our intention is to receive for ourselves. So corporeality equals, if I use my desire to receive for me. This is all our egoistic nature. So I use others for my own benefit. In fact, all of us every day use everything that's available to us in this world for our own benefit. That's called ego. Ego, selfishness, self-centeredness, you name it. And we're 100% in that nature, in that intention, let's say. So our nature is a desire to receive, and the way it works right now is in an egoistic way. And what we want to do is bring the intention on top of the desire into bestowal. So that just like the Creator bestows to us, we can reciprocate and bestow back to Him by using our own nature. So we don't actually have to change our nature, and we don't need to, we won't be able to. However, we can change our intention about how we use our nature with a little bit of help from upstairs. And that's called the light that reforms. So in this text, he explained to us any person who comes to study the wisdom of Kabbalah, and obviously he's coming with a dot in his heart, although he has no clue, or she has no clue about spirituality, about what it's about, what we're supposed to do, what does it mean to bestow, to unite with the Creator, what does it mean to attain spirituality? We have no idea at all. However, Kabbalists are saying, well, look, the Creator wants to bestow to us, and we're desired to receive pleasure. So if we can use our nature, our desire, to want what He wants, then that will influence Him to bestow upon us change. So by studying, what happens is, this is corporeality. By studying, this is spirituality. We attract light, which is an influence on us. Influence on this, more like. Which creates inner changes. So all of a sudden, we become less egoistic. We become more giving, more loving, more changing. However, although we don't feel the light inside our vessels right now, as he writes, it's not inside of us at the moment felt, this light still influences us, and it's called the surrounding light. This is the same way kids grow up. Just like in this world, like I said, we have mom and dad. They help us grow up. In spirituality, there's also a force called dad, mom, and so on. We'll learn about those when we learn the structure of the spiritual worlds. Actually, the concept of mom and dad come from spirituality. Just like they take care of kids here, this system that we're inside, is also taking care of all the souls, which is us. This is why it's really easy to relate to spirituality if you pay a little attention to this world, because it's like a copy of what really exists, and all we have to do is really discover the force that acts behind it on the other side, behind the screens, which we currently don't feel. So what really happens here is when we desire to be in these spiritual states that we're studying, this attracts a light which helps us to feel inner sensations, to go through inner discernments, to go through phases of inner development where we come to the recognition of egoism. And once we come to the recognition of what the human ego is all about, which is inside of us, then from then on, we can use that. We can use those egoistic impressions to build something opposite to egoism, which will be love and bestowal. Now, love and bestowal, coming to love and bestowal, it sounds a little bit like kindergarten stuff, things we tell our kids. However, we need to understand here, love and bestowal is not like love and bestowal as how we imagine it in our world. It's a way of existing in such a way that you actually sense that you don't lack anything, that you're in complete perfection, that you don't feel like you miss anything, you don't have any fears about anything, you just feel completeness. So when we're talking about love and bestowal, we also need to put the correct label on it and not get ourselves confused with airy-fairy stuff about how we think about love in this world. The state of love and bestowal means that I am in perfection, I lack nothing, and I'm existing in such a way that the whole system is really taking care of everything for me. That's called love and bestowal. It's an attitude that I have which makes me feel like the Creator. And that's the state that we should all be yearning to get to, like he said here, as we yearn, as we want to be in the states that the Kabbalists are talking about. These surrounding lights, these influences come to us, and they will reveal inside of us over time, not all in one go, over time, gradually, what our real nature is. And on top of that, we'll be able to build a spiritual nature. Now, the light that reforms, as you know from before, remember we said state 1, state 3. Remember, the Creator created us in perfection here, and we need to build our own perfection here. In order for us to do that, we need to come from our world here, corporal reality. So we go through cycles of life, and one of those life cycles, the dot in the heart, awakens. And as we study Kabbalah, our study afterwards brings us to cross to the other side, just to cross over to spirituality. And the light exists here. This is why we don't feel it in our lives. We don't have a real sensory organ to feel the light. However, because the whole of reality is one, the whole of reality is one complete system that we're all in, what happens is, it's like in your body, you scratch your arm, but it's like you feel it everywhere. You understand that you're scratching your arm. It's like, I don't know, a little pinch and your whole body feels it. So the system is like that as well. As we make a movement in the system, it kind of reacts to those movements. And if we make the right movements, it responds in a correct way. And that's called attracting the light that reforms, in order to make a positive change in us. So along the way, a student of Kabbalah is constantly getting the light that reforms, and is building this yearning for change. And when this yearning for change becomes a really big desire to change for the better, when we have a real big desire to come to bestow, but we know we just can't seem to do it on ourselves, by ourselves, this desire to bestow and the inability to change ourselves brings us to this thing called a prayer. That's what a prayer is, actually. And this inner scream inside a person where he wants to change so much, but it's beyond his means, activates the Creator once again. And this time, he gives us an intention to bestow, which brings us to the entrance of spirituality, where we begin to build our spirituality from scratch. This is called the preparation period. Prep period. All right. Any questions?
Oh, yes. We've got a lot. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask the most recent one because it's a little bit more relevant to what you just got to speaking about. Carmen from Romania is asking. Let's see here. Sorry about that. Carmen from Romania is asking, hello, if still vegetative, inanimate, and speaking in this world have a corresponding part in the upper worlds, do actions and emotions have them too? I mean, if murders and wars have correspondence in the upper worlds.
Okay, let's take a look at that. When we're talking about still, vegetative, animate, and human, we're talking about everything that's inside a person. Right? Before we studied, you'll recall in our previous lessons, or let me just draw it here. Here in our life, what do we have? We have the still, vegetative, animate, human, and then we've got the dot in the heart. What's our still desires? Still desires, oops. They're the basic desires that we have. Sex, food, family. Just like animals need those things, humans need them as well to exist and carry on existing. So those are our still level. The vegetative, as humanity developed, what did we want? We want to get richer than the next door neighbors. So we strive to get rich and become more wealthy in society, and that's the vegetative. It looks like a plant striving to get to the sun, to get to the light all the time. And then as we developed even more, what do? We set up countries around us. We made countries. We put borders and we said, this is my place. That's called the animate level, control and honor. For example, artists, politicians who want to control or they want honor and fame in society, they're in that animal state. Okay, we think politicians are, like important people in society, but in Kabbalah, no, it's a bunch of wild animals. That's called the animate level. Human level are scientists. Scientists actually want to discover why we exist. Actually, the whole of science is pure science. It started from the question, well, why are we created? What's happening with us? What are we doing here? So science is the highest level of human development. Beyond that, when you come to no answers from science, the point in the heart develops. That is the spiritual gene that we have from the spiritual world, from the Creator Himself. Now, everything that happens in this world, let's just draw it here, all the events of this world, wars, murders, rapes, all the natural disasters, all the turmoils that we have been going through, the world wars, everything, all the suffering that we're all going through, have been going through, and humanity will carry on going through for a while until we get corrected, is only for one and only one reason. It's to push development. That kind of development is called the path of suffering. Now, the Creator created everything in two opposites, as you'll recall from the perception of reality. There must be two opposite states in order for us to perceive everything. That's called the path of suffering. So the Creator said, well, listen, this is the path of suffering. Well, let me just sweeten things up a little bit for you and give you spirituality as well. And spirituality is called the path of light. It means conscious development. Path of light basically means conscious development. So as we study, what happens is we begin to develop consciously, and conscious development gives us the ability to advance towards the purpose of creation, which is here, without suffering. So we can actually build our spiritual reality without any suffering, with conscious development. This third state we all have to get to. There's no getting out of it. The Creator is not going to change the rules of the game. This is the state that the whole of humanity will have to get to. How they'll get to it is another question. So everything that happens is purely to push, just push humanity towards development. Because if you suffer, you begin to ask that wonderful question, why am I suffering? And as you ask, the dot in the heart awakens, and then you start to search for an answer. In one of those searches, you should come to Kabbalah, and if you stick out with it, you'll get into this path of light called conscious development. And that's about it, really.
Mike from South Africa, he writes in and says, is the state we are trying to achieve a selfless state? Is the I an illusion?
The real I is the dot in the heart. The body is an illusion, that's why it dies off. But the real I is the dot in the heart. So in Kabbalah, that's why we don't really relate to our body. We only give it what it needs to survive, we take care of it, and that's about it. The real you is the dot in the heart, which you have to develop. And that's the beauty of spirituality from a Kabbalistic perspective, because you create that. You make it, like the Creator created us out of nothing. You create literally a spiritual being out of nothing except that dot in the heart. So it's a very amazing process to actually go through. Yeah.
Now, Stephen from the UK has two questions. Stephen wrote, first question, is the point in the heart from the Creator, from me, or from his essence?
The point in the heart is the Creator's part, is the Creator's attribute of love and bestowal in the smallest possible form inside me, inside everyone that's awakening. That's what it is. It's a part of the Creator in us. Okay, and the Creator is love and bestowal. So it's that inclination to love and bestow. That's what the point of the heart is. That's what the point in the heart is.
Now, Stephen is also asking, where does the desire or deficiency for spirituality come from?
Well, the dot in the heart gives you the little pinch. Right? Was that? So it says, Stephen, listen, dude, you know, what are you living for? Life's short, not really fulfilling. You go to work, you come home, it's just a headache. Next day, same thing. Here comes the weekend. Try to have a little bit of fun while you do your laundry and clean up the house. Maybe in the evening you go down to the pub with your mates, have a beer and come back. Sunday night, maybe you do a little movie night. And come Monday morning, you go through hell again until next Saturday. So that point in the heart says, hey, Stephen, there must be more to life than this, mate. And then you start looking around. And this is how a person starts to kind of get nudged. And once a person is then beginning to search and look, he begins to understand that there must be more to life. And this is what the whole wisdom is all about. So developing this dot in the heart is very important, because it allows you to get out of this mess, this incomprehensible daily routine that we have to do without knowing why we have to do it, and taking ourselves out of it by the help of this dot in the heart. Now, in order for you to build that dot in the heart, to make something out of it, you need the help of an environment, just like a baby needs the help of an environment to grow, which we're going to touch on in the next lessons down the line. So this is only our 5th lesson, but along the line we're going to talk about how to develop this dot in the heart through the help of the environment. This is why a person's brought to Kabbalah. He doesn't really know what Kabbalah is. He just, you know, comes across a book or an article or the website or whatever, and then he just gets into it. It's really interesting. It's like a magnetic field that as your dot in the heart develops, it gets like a fish getting caught in this net, and then you start to study, look into it, and then if it really resonates with you, then you can actually carry on, and then you need to use your freedom of choice in order to develop it. That was the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so how to make that into a desire to bestow, how to grow it into a desire to bestow, is actually what the spiritual work is. Because throughout the work, we're actually building that desire, like I drew it here, right? We're building a desire for bestowal, something we didn't have before, because our nature is a desire to receive. So we don't have a desire to bestow, but the study builds in us this inclination to want to bestow. And this desire to want to bestow influences the Creator, and He brings about the change to our intention. When we say the desire to bestow, we're always talking about the intention here on top of the desire, because the desire to receive remains the same. But when I say the desire to bestow, I'm talking about the intention to bestow. All right? And that's how it is. And then the Creator makes this change. But the Creator's action, this action that He's making the change on you, is because of your effort in this preparation period here. Due to your effort, your studying, the whole process that you go through in order to come to that state is called your effort. And that effort, the Creator pays for, just like going to work. You go to work, you get your paycheck, and the Creator says, you've done your job, here's your paycheck, and it's that change. Right, yeah.
Jimmy from England is asking, is there a definitive first step to becoming a desire to bestow?
Yes.
Rather than a desire to receive?
No. Is there what? Well, I'll come again. Is there a definite first step to becoming a desire to bestow rather than a desire to receive? Now, we're a desire to receive already. We're born with it. We can't change it. It's just how it is. Wanting to come to bestow, the intention to bestow, the desire to bestow is the intention to bestow. Wanting to come to that is the whole study. And how we do that should be the question, right? So how we understand that as we study Kabbalah, we attract the light that reforms. So the question is, how should I study? How should I study to attract the light? And here comes the concept of studying with the right intention. Because as I drew here earlier on, here is where the intention is. And in corporeality is just the action. Actions. And what we need to attain is the correct intention. But if I'm stuck down in this world in my 5 sensory organs, plus a dot in the heart, and the dot in the heart is like, initially it just has no idea what it's really doing. How am I supposed to attract the light with the right intention? What's the right intention supposed to be? Well, the intention here is why I study. Why? Or what do I want from the study? So you guys, before every lesson, should be asking yourselves, why am I studying this? What am I going to do from 10 to 11, or for this 1 hour duration, whatever your time zone is? Why am I studying this? What do I want to get from this lesson? That's called the intention. The intention will change over time and become sharper. Because at first it could be any intention. And since we're in our egoistic nature, it's always going to be egoistic until that intention changes. However, it's worthwhile starting to think before every action, as much as you can, why are you doing it? Because only stupid people or children do things without a reason. And children have to do it without a reason, because then they come to the understanding. So all of us should think about, before we do anything really, why am I doing it? What benefit do I want from this action? So my action here has some connection with the right intention that's up here. Even when we haven't yet attained spirituality, we can begin at the simplest level to relate the action with the intention. Why am I studying? What do I want from the study? This intention alone is enough to influence us. It's enough to attract the light that reforms. So the world of intention is why, and the world of corporeality is just the action. And we should start to blend them both. Right, yeah?
So we have Louise from Brighton, Great Britain, and the question is, and how do we, once awakening, keep an interest in general life to life activities? Once we know that there is a much bigger picture and we are all star stuff. Stuff like work, jobs, how do we keep
our regular lives
without being a hermit, actually?
Okay, how do we study Kabbalah without actually disrupting our day-to-day lives? This is a very good question, and we shouldn't disrupt our lives. And we don't live like hermits at all. It's a really good question. So what do I need to do without disrupting my life? So Louise, that's very nice. So there are two Louises, right?
Yes, we've got Louisa and Louise.
Louisa and Louise. But this Louise that's asking from Brighton, there's two Louises in you, okay? One is the corporeal Louise. Okay, so that's Louise. There we go. You'll have to excuse my drawing. Okay, so that's Louise. And then there's a special Louise, the dot and dot, that's wondering, what's the meaning of life? Okay, this is the urge to discover the meaning of your life. Meaning of your life, right? We need to keep a good balance between them. It doesn't mean just because I'm studying spirituality that I have to let go of the rest of my life. So the things you need in corporeality, you must maintain. For example, if you have to go to work, you go to work. Okay? If you have family, you have family time. You need to take care of your health. Okay? You need to take care of yourself. These are important things. These are necessary for us to maintain this Louise, because if you don't maintain this Louise, you can't look after this Louise, can you? So this Louise needs to be a happy woman. Oh, not green, sorry about that. Okay, so this Louise needs to be happy, and then you can work on this Louise. So spirituality means, spirituality is, when I'm studying spirituality, I take care of my necessaries, my necessity needs. I take care of necessities. And on top of that, when I have spare time, in my spare time, I study Kabbalah. That's it. Now, all of us here go to work, right? So I go to work, Anthony goes to work. During the day, we work. We don't get paid to teach Kabbalah. Okay, it's one of our principles. We don't get paid to teach Kabbalah. When you start taking money for teaching spiritual stuff, then you can't keep it clean. So all of us have a profession. We go to work. We have families. You know, we have families. We've got kids. You know, so on top of all that, though, we study Kabbalah as well. So it's just a matter of arranging your life according to what you think is necessary to maintain your normal day-to-day life. And on top of that, where you can add spirituality, you add spirituality. That's all. So we shouldn't become hermits. We need to be a part of this world. We need to live like regular people in this world, because this world is actually very important for us to receive inner impressions, so that we can actually, from those impressions, make proper discernments in our spiritual advancement as well. All right, so no need to stress. And this is a calculation you must make. Okay, so we can't come up to you and say, "Oh, Louise, you got to do this, 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 and that's it." No, a person needs to grow from studying spirituality by him or herself. Through the study, what you should be able to do is to plan how you're going to put it all together yourself. You're going to determine your needs and everything. Yeah, there you go.
So from Romania, Pop Carmen is asking, the empathy is the beginning of distancing from ego. Is that correct?
I don't know what you mean with empathy, okay? Because empathy is like trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody else, and, you know, kind of be in a nice connection with them in order to make them feel good. But we can't really be in empathy in the real meaning of the word, simply because we're all different. We can never feel what the other person feels. Spirituality, therefore, is not empathy. We must understand that spirituality is attaining the Creator while we're living in this world. That's spirituality. If I want to be a good person, you can build empathy, rapport, connection, bond with other people. That's great. But that's not spirituality. Spirituality means I attain the thought of the Creator, and I don't want to stick around in this world living the way I am. In a blunt way, that's what spirituality is. To come to that perfection, the existence in perfection, exactly how like the Creator exists, to be just like the Creator. That's spirituality.
Now, Stephen from the UK is asking, to be happy in corporeality, I have to connect to people on the common ground of the ego. Can I do this and still advance in spirituality?
Sure you can. I mean, we're connecting with egoistic people all the time at work and so on, because, you know, they're not in spirituality, and we don't go and convince them to get spiritual. So yeah, you can definitely do that. The use of the environment is very important for everything in life, and we'll discuss it later on down the line. But no, as long as you're also studying, because, you know, look, in just like with things in real life, right? Let's say I want to learn how to play a musical instrument. Then I need to practice it. Then I need to practice, I need to learn so that I can get better at it. And the more I'm serious about it, the more into it I get. And even if I'm even more serious, then I begin to dedicate more of my spare time to it. So it all depends on the person, or how important you feel this is for you. And this is, like I said to Louise as well, it's all about how you decide on how you want to integrate it into your life.
Now, Emmanuel wrote in earlier, just before the class started, and has a few questions about the soul. Number one is, where specifically does a soul...
Wait a sec. I've got one more thing to say. We'll leave that for the last.
Okay.
So in the science of Kabbalah, in the wisdom of Kabbalah, how do we attract the light? An individual studies with the friends, okay? So all of us come and study. Right, just like right now. We're all studying together. And we're studying from the books. And what we're studying about is bestowal. How the Creator bestows. That's what we're studying. The book is talking to us about bestowal. Something we don't know because we've never bestowed to anyone. We're egoists. But the book is talking about the attributes of bestowal, about how the Creator bestows. So by studying this together, what we want to do is receive an influence from the Creator. So this is the environment. So the guide or the teacher from the proper books guides us into studying what bestowal is. The study and the connection between us attracts upon us the light that reforms. So the light comes from the Creator. Through the study, it influences us all. And that's progress. And while I'm studying, okay, so we're studying bestowal. While I'm studying, the intention should be intention is why I'm studying. Why I'm studying. What do I want? This you guys have to think about yourselves. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you your intention. A person needs to think about it, clarify it. This is a setup. We study because we have an aspiration for spirituality. The books and the guide teaches us how to advance correctly. And through the study, even though I don't understand it emotionally, I want to understand it. I read, I try to, even intellectually, I'm making an effort to delve into it, to see how that might even feel like a little bit. I want to be in it. That desire is that pulling force. The desire to be in those states, the desire to attain these states already pulls the light towards us. And over time, you'll begin to understand and feel what this light is as you discover things in you which you didn't know they were there before. And from those new discernments, you'll begin to pave the path towards spiritual development. This is how it works in a nutshell. Right, I've got a reading assignment for you. From Attaining the Worlds Beyond, page 81 to 84, Structure of Spirituality. That's your assignment. And that's it. Now, what was Emmanuel's question there?
Emmanuel's question, number one was, where specifically does a soul that departed this earth life, without correction go?
If he's not corrected, there is no soul. Soul means I'm already at least have the minimal level of correction. So let's say there's a person living in his body and he hasn't done any spirituality at all. So he goes through life, and then Shmuel Efshar Masach, thank you. So this person is going through life, and then all good things must come to an end with an anticipation to rest in peace. Okay? If he didn't do any spirituality, the correct spirituality, and built a soul while living here, when he dies, he goes into here. And that's it. Not a very happy chappy then. Because nothing happens if you don't have a soul, you just die. Think of it this way, right? A chicken dies. Let's say we cut up a chicken and ate it, right? We cooked the chicken and we ate it. We don't expect the chicken to go to La La Land. It just goes into our belly, right? So man is like, just like a chicken is walking on two legs, ends up dead. We end up dead as well. This is why it's very important. The whole of purpose of creation is so important. The minute this awakens, you want to make sure before you hit the ground to build this at a minimal level. What else?
Dora from the USA is asking, other than Kabbalah, where else do we get the light?
You want the truth? Kabbalists are saying there's only Kabbalah. Okay, let's not get hooked up on the name. Let's get hooked up on the method. Okay? Because there are 1,001 Kabbalah out there. Just get hooked up on the proper method. Attaining the light means attaining the light of the Creator, which is His wisdom and His attributes. In order for me to attain that, I have to get His nature and get myself out of my egoistic nature. So the method of Kabbalah, as we studied here in Bnei Baruch, is a methodology for us to get ourselves out of our egoistic nature and to take on the nature of the Creator. And this method obviously is attracting that changing force so that we can go through this inner change, kind of like the snake changing his skin, basically becoming something new. This is the light is the Creator's influence on us to change us, just like parents grow up children in order to mold them in life. That's the process. So there are 4,200 methods of spirituality if you ask Google. You got to go with where you feel is right. The best method for everyone is where they feel right in their heart. So check them out, see how you go. Yes, there we've got question time for one more.
Yes, this is a really good one. Simona from Romania is asking, does the spirituality change our experience here on earth?
You'll begin to see the things that happen in this world at a deeper level. You'll begin to understand why things happen. And wouldn't that be great? Because all our suffering is because we don't know why things happen to us. That's the mother of all questions. Why me?
And very last question, how can we activate the point in the heart in order to implement itself?
That we'll study in the environment section. So stick around, don't miss that lesson, Simona. Okay? Environment is, everybody's an environment, is a product of the environment. So when we study that, you make sure you don't miss the lesson. Is that it, mate?
That's it.
Lovely jubbly. All right, guys. Have a great evening or day, depending where you are. And we will hopefully see you guys all next Tuesday. All right? Have a great day. Have a great week. All the best. Take care.